Pleased to welcome you this morning to this webinar on national interoperability, co-hosted by the E-ZPass group. We have over 300 people registered for this webinar. Before we start, I'd like to make a few announcements about upcoming events. First, the Maintenance and Roadway Operations Workshop will be held October 14 through 16 in Kansas City, Missouri. Registration is open. You can register by visiting our website at IBTTA.org/Kansas City. Also, as in recent years, we will have a community service project on Sunday. The Leadership Academy is accepting applications for the 2013 class that will take place in February. We're accepting applications through November 1st. Please visit IBTTA.org for details. Our next webinar is Communications is the First Step in Meeting Customer Expectations. That will take place on October 30th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and it's brought to you by the IBTTA Communications Committee. If you have a topic that you'd like to see IBTTA put on in a webinar format, please send your suggestions to Cheryl Arnold at carnold@ibtta.org. Rachel Bell of the Kansas Turnpike Authority is the chief meeting organizer for all the webinars next year, and she'll be getting to work later this year on that planning. Well, we're very pleased today to have three highly regarded toll industry leaders as our presenters. P.J. Wilkins of the E-ZPass group, Stan Ciszewski of the New Jersey Turnpike Authority, and Charlie Fausti of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. The presentation will last approximately 30 minutes and will be followed by Q&A. You may ask a question at any time using the questions dialog box on the right side of your screen. We will monitor questions throughout the presentations and throughout the webinar, but will not address them until after the presentations have been completed. If any questions are not answered during today's session, the presenters will work on them after the webinar, and we will post the responses in the next 48 hours. We will post the slides and audio portion of this webinar on our website by the close of business today. So let's get started. As I mentioned, we have three excellent presenters. P.J. Wilkins is the Executive Director of the E-ZPass Group, which oversees the operation of the world's largest, most successful electronic toll collection system, comprising 24 toll agencies in 14 states. P.J. has over 25 years' experience in various segments of the transportation industry. P.J. has been active in IBTTA since 1999 and served as a member of the board from 2005 through 2008. He's also served on the Board of Trustees of the Alliance for Toll Interoperability, ATI. Also with us is Stan Ciszewski. Stan is an Assistant Director of the New Jersey Turnpike Authority in the Electronic Toll Collection Division and represents the agency on matters relating to E-ZPass. He is one of the original members of the E-ZPass group and served as its first Finance Committee Chairman. He's currently the group's Policy Committee Chairman. Stan has over 30 years of experience in the toll industry. He served as chairman of the IBTTA Technology Committee, where he helped broaden the committee's programs to include an international component. He serves on numerous technical committees of ASTM and the IEEE. And rounding out our cast of characters today is Charlie Fausti. Charlie is Senior Program Manager, E-ZPass Projects, for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. He's responsible for oversight of the Port Authority's contracts for the operation of the New York Customer Service Center and the in-lane toll collection system. He has worked in the field of electronic toll collection for 25 years. Charlie has served as the program manager for the deployment of E-ZPass Plus for parking at JFK International, Newark Liberty International, and LaGuardia airports. Charlie is chair of the E-ZPass Group Technical Committee and is working to establish technical standards to promote national tolling interoperability. PJ, Stan, Charlie, thank you for being here. PJ, let's begin with you.
Well, thank you, Pat, and thank you to the IBTTA staff for helping us put this together and co-hosting with us today. We're excited about sharing with you how the E-ZPass group conducts interoperability. Obviously, this is a critically important subject to our industry, as evidenced by the about close to 350 people who registered for the event. It is the most important issue I think that we're facing today. We've all acknowledged that, and it's become more important with the passage of MAP 21, where we now have a deadline established for achieving this goal. It's going to require us to get a new focus, work hard, and make a lot of tough decisions here within the next 4 years. There are, of course, a lot of people and organizations working hard to solve the issue. We've got a list of them: IBTTA, IAG, ATI, the Corridor Coalition, Omni-Air. We have a new group called the National Interoperability Coordinating Group, and others, all working very diligently to reach our objective. We are starting to see some real progress. I think the biggest thing is that we're getting away from the stovepipes that we've traditionally seen, and we're starting to have this collaborative sharing of information, and it's a good deal for us to all share what we know about what each of us are doing. But it's also important to know that I think that this isn't really a new issue. It's not such a daunting task as sometimes we make it out to be, because we're already very successful in interoperability. Just look at what's going on, within the IAG, interoperability among 24 agencies in 14 states. Texas, the entire state of Texas, interoperable. Florida, interoperable. California, also very successful at interoperability. So now it's time for us to build on those successes. So what's the purpose today? There were a lot of questions about why are we doing this? What is the expected result out of today? I want to make it very clear, this is not a sales pitch for the E-ZPass group, and I will use the term E-ZPass group and IAG interchangeably here. Most of you still know it as the IAG. This isn't a sales pitch. It's not about getting membership. It's about sharing what we have learned about interoperability over the last almost 18 years. We're going to share with you how we do interoperability, and we also want to make it clear that we're extremely interested in learning how other systems do it. And to that end, we want to continue the dialogue as we work toward that objective. We've already been in discussions with Florida, trying to understand how they do it. We'll be reaching out very soon to Texas to learn how they do interoperability. Reaching out to California to see how they do interoperability. Why? Because we want to find out where we have commonalities, where we have synergies, where we differ, and maybe even determine what we have for best practices that we can implement to help us along the way. So a little bit of a background of what some of our efforts have been thus far. In 2010 and 2011, we worked, the IAG worked with IBTTA and ATI. With Congressman Micah's staff, you may recall that there was some legislation that was being proposed about interoperability, and we had a lot of concerns about the language that was being proposed. At the end of that, we all committed to the concept of national interoperability, and we committed at that time to do a demonstration program along the I-95 corridor, and that we would do so within a 5-year period. That's obviously been overtaken somewhat by the recent changes and approval of MAP 21, where we are now going to be expected to be fully interoperable nationwide within 4 years. Right after that, the E-ZPass board approved an amendment to our operating agreement known as Amendment 8 that established a national affiliate program, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But it was, we thought, a huge step in advancing the E-ZPass group's ability to be interoperable with other systems. So where are we now? What are we doing now? E-ZPass is currently working with North Carolina, with Florida, and with others in attempts to become interoperable. We're doing that primarily through this national affiliate program that we'll be talking about more later. But we're also working with other organizations to advance interoperability. Like I had said, we're working with IBTTA, with the IOP committee. We're working with ATI. We're working with the 6C working group and others. We're currently working with our vendor to develop and test a multi-protocol reader and trying to understand what that really means. I mean, how many protocols, what types of protocols, can they do read and write, what would the accuracy rates be? These are all very, very important things that we need to determine. And we've also established an interoperability portal on our website that's dedicated to the sharing of information. For the first time in our history, we've put our file specifications, test plans, our business rules, our policies, anything to do with interoperability, we've now put on our website for people to use as they wish. So I'm going to give you a very quick background on the E-ZPass group and kind of how we got to where we are today and a little bit how we operate today. We're not suggesting that what you're going to see is the only way or the right way to do interoperability, but it's how we do interoperability. And after this, we're going to be very interested in learning how others do interoperability. So basically, I think most of you know that back in 1993, we called them the 7 wise men, got together and decided that it was not a good idea to have 7 different transponders in the windshields of vehicles. And so there was a lot of sharing of customers throughout the Northeast. And we, I think, decided it would be best to have a joint system. And so those were the 7 original members of E-ZPass that agreed to work together to do that. They conducted a joint procurement for ETC equipment. Mark IV IVHS was selected. And the first roadway operated in 1995. E-ZPass was immediately accepted and enjoyed by travelers in the region. It is a tremendously successful program that has extremely high customer satisfaction rates. So here's how it's grown today. We now have 24 toll agencies in 14 states. You can see the map. We're very spread out and moving quite rapidly in our expansion. Today there are about 13.7 million accounts, and as the map shows, we have customer accounts located in each of the 50 states, and you can see by the little dots in all the various areas there are these huge concentrations of them in Florida, in California, in Texas, even up in Washington. Today we have just shy of 23 million transponders deployed in the system. We do an awful lot of transactions, as you see on the board, every year, and about 72% of all the traffic in the E-ZPass region is done through electronic means. Our members today collect about $8 billion a year in total toll revenues, and 5.6 of that is collected through the E-ZPass system. A really interesting statistic is that about 2.6 billion, or 46% of the revenue that's collected electronically, is interchanged between the agencies. So that's money that's going from a home agency to an away agency, or away agencies to home agencies. And so we already have a model that works and works effectively in the 14-state region. The E-ZPass group also has very diverse tolling requirements. Critically important that the equipment that we chose and that the processes that we set up were able to work in all these environments. Again, we have open road tolling, closed ticket systems, gated facilities, hot lanes. You know, some agencies need to read, some need to write. So there's a lot of very diverse requirements within the systems. So what have we learned over our operating history? Well, we've learned a lot, but we kind of boiled them down into what we think are 3 important statements. And one is that a nationally interoperable system is feasible, it is achievable, and we believe it's achievable in the short term. We all know how to do interoperability already. We've done it successfully. As I said, Florida and Texas and California have done it successfully, so we know how to do this. We strongly believe that any system must be technology-based. It has to be able to meet the requirements of those tolling systems that we just talked about a few minutes ago. And that while there is a place for video tolling needs to be a local decision and not part of the national interoperability model because of the inherent difficulties it has and the associated revenue collection risk. I want to talk briefly about the procurement. We got many questions throughout the procurement process about for our technology, and national interoperability really is kind of a 2-phase process, right? There's a track that focuses on technology, which we'll talk about here briefly, and then there's a track that's just as important on back office and financial arrangements. But the E-ZPass group completed a significant procurement effort in July of 2011. It resulted in a contract with CAPS and we chose equipment that had to meet very, very strict specifications, as you'll see here shortly, and it had to be highly accurate in all aspects of those tolling schemes. Again, in the gated systems, in read-write systems, in reading on and reading off systems. It had to work under all those conditions, any condition that we would find in one of our member toll facilities. And so in order to make sure it could do that, all the equipment had to pass validation testing to ensure that all the specs were achieved. So what did we do? We conducted validation testing, again, for highway speed, open road, as well as traditional plazas. We did various speed profiles, various vehicle profiles, and basically ran about 88,000 transactions under very, very rigorous conditions. These were, in fact, the requirements that the vendors, that the proposers had to meet. As you'll see, they are very, very stringent requirements, 99.9 or better for read performance, for write performance, and for lane assignment. So what happened? Well, we had success. Both vendors, and we had, in this case, it was CAPSH and Transcore who went to validation testing. Both vendors successfully completed it, and it proved to us that there are multiple vendors who offer equipment that is extremely accurate and satisfies the very high standards that we have. It's accurate under all of those operational conditions that are so important to our members, and we believe that it has the best chance of minimizing risk to revenue and is highly reliable for the customer and leads to increased customer satisfaction. So the one thing we want to leave with you here today about that is that you will find all of our functional requirements, our test plan, you'll find our RFP, our specs, all those things are available on our website for you to look at, for you to use, discard, you know, whatever you want to do with them, they're available for you to use to advance interoperability. But as I said, interoperability is actually a kind of a two-track process. And while technology is critically important, and that's kind of where most of the focus has been, it is even more important, I believe, and probably more difficult to address the back office and financial considerations than the technology. I mean, we have to consider things like, you know, the file specifications. How are we going to share? How do we agree on what the files look like that we're going to transfer so we can understand what we're sending one another? What are the business rules associated with that? When do we do file transfers? How do we do file transfers? How do fund settlements work? Are there toll guarantees? And if so, how are they guaranteed? Will there be contracts between the agencies? Will there be some master contract? What kind of an agreement will there be? Is there going to be cost sharing to take the cost that's going to be associated with interoperability? How will that cost sharing work? So these are all very, very important things that we need to determine. We're going to tell you how we do it now. And then again, like I said, we want to learn how others do it. We have a clearly defined file spec, and it says what must be transmitted. We transmit transponder status files so we know who is valid in the lanes. The transaction file so that we can figure out who owes, which agency owes which agency funds. Reconciliation files, license plate files. We send files each night between each of the customer service centers over a managed frame relay. Files are reconciled and a settlement happens between agencies on a regular basis. And again, we exchange about $2.6 billion, about 2.4 billion transactions. And the big thing we want to leave you with here is that all those things, our file specifications, the business rules, the reciprocity agreements, our operating agreement, all those things are on our website for you to look at, for you to use, for you to consider, and for us to use to see if we can find some common ground, some way to move forward. We have several membership categories, but as I said, we're not here focusing today on growing membership. I just wanted to point out that we have now a new membership category, which is called the National Affiliate category. And for the first time, it allowed the E-ZPass group to consider membership for agencies that use dissimilar equipment from ours, but compatible equipment. So for the first time now, we can accept a member who is not using necessarily CAPSH equipment. So the National Affiliate Program was established in 2012. The equipment that's used has to be determined to be compatible. And how do we do that? Well, we do some testing of the equipment to make sure that it meets those accuracy rates that we discussed a few minutes ago. We do utilize IAG file specs and business rules so that it can happen very, very quickly. And it provides instant interoperability with all the E-ZPass facilities and the 23 million tags that are currently out in the system. So what are we doing right now? Right now, the E-ZPass group is bringing on our first national affiliate member. We're working with the North Carolina Turnpike Authority. We'll be starting testing here in mid-October, and we expect that if all goes well with testing, as we expect it will, we'll be interoperable with North Carolina at the end of this year. We're also conducting factory acceptance testing of some of the new products that we procured in 2011. We're working currently on tags, various tag types, and with our new readers, trying to get those through testing. We're working again with all those other various organizations to advance national interoperability. We're trying to take a very active role in each of those organizations. We're working very hard with our vendor currently to develop and test a new multi-protocol reader. We have to determine which protocols are compatible. You know, can they all coexist? Can you read? Can you write? Can you do all those things at highway speeds? Can you do them very, very accurately? Again, very, very important to our operational model. So our conclusion here really is that any interoperable system is going to have to meet some very diverse needs. And those are the needs that we talked about earlier. You know, the gated systems, the open road systems, you know, hot lanes, all those things that our operators around the country do are going to have to work with whatever it is that we choose to do. The E-ZPass model works. We've been successful for almost 18 years now, and we have created membership opportunities that we think will help us to advance interoperability. We have highly accurate equipment. It's available on the market from multiple vendors today, and we have proven processes that already work. And it works not just within the E-ZPass group, but again, in all those other pockets of interoperability around the country. So what we're suggesting is, although this sounds like a very daunting task, there's really no need to start from scratch. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We all have models that work very well in our respective regions. We just need to figure out how to tie those things together, how to use those best practices to advance us to where we need to go. So the real purpose for today was to share with you these documents that we put on the website. We had mentioned in Atlanta, at the IBTTA conference in Atlanta, that we had created a portal. We put a bunch of documents on the website, and we immediately started getting many, many calls about the documents. What does this one mean? What does that one mean? How do you use that? Where can I find this? So we thought it would make good sense to have a webinar where we could discuss where you could find the documents, how we use those documents, what you might find inside those documents. We're not going to do a page-by-page assessment of the documents. There just isn't enough time. But what we're going to suggest is take a look, see what you need to look at. If you have questions, you have any comments, any issues at all, please contact us at the IAG office, and we'll give you that number here in a few minutes. We'll be happy to answer your questions. So where would you go to find the documents? It's the E-ZPass Group website. It's on the screen. Basically, it's at e-zpassiag.com. And this is what it's going to look like. And Kathleen's very quickly going to open it and show you where you can find the documents. So here's our website. You'll see an interoperability link. You can click on it. There's also one down at the bottom of the page. You can click on either one. And you'll come to a page that has basically 6 different menu options at the bottom that basically put them into categories, all the documents in the various categories. Kathleen's going to click on the first one. And in there, you will find all of our operating agreements and all the amendments to the operating agreements and all those types of things, as well as our reciprocity agreements, which kind of go to the heart of our toll guarantee and how we do our settlements. So that's where you would go. Look through those things. They'll all pop up. Save them, print them, use them, don't use them, and ask questions. So here in a nutshell are kind of documents that you'll see there. We'll see the operating agreements and the amendments we just showed you. Reciprocity, which has to do with tolls, and then the ones that have to do with public parking and private parking. You'll find the license agreement that we use for a service mark. You'll see the inter-CSC file specifications, and that's probably the most asked for document that we have currently. You'll see the validation test plans for E-ZPass equipment. You'll also see the test plan on there that we used for the national affiliate equipment testing. There's a lot more documents on there as well. You'll see our RFP. So just take a look, see what you want to find, and if you can't find what you're looking for, let us know. So I'm briefly going to tell you what you'll find in the operating agreement section. In the operating agreement, it basically is a document that controls us. It binds us together. It tells us how we operate. It is kind of the legal document that creates us as a group that works together. It defines how we manage the system. It gives the powers of not only of the Executive Management Committee, but of the group as a whole. It defines what agencies have the right to reserve as their own. It sets out voting rights and procedures. How do we make decisions? It sets out how we admit new members. And it sets out how we create committees and task forces. All really very simple, but very critical. And we're going to need something like this as we move into national interoperability. So right now I'm going to pass the baton over to Stan Ciszewski, who's going to talk to you about another document that's very critical, the reciprocity agreements. And this is probably the second most asked for document because people want to know how we agree to transmit files, how we agree to settle, how often we do that, and how we guarantee the toll. So with that, Mr. Ciszewski.
Thank you, PJ. The reciprocity document that you'll find on the web is the base agreement by which we end up transacting business. It's the business rules that we've developed in order to do it. Just to give you a framing of why the document got developed, although we selected technology at one point in time, not everyone deployed that technology at the same time, and that gave rise to multiple CSCs that had different sets of customers. We needed to integrate those customers into a single base called E-ZPass, and that gave rise to the formation of this reciprocity-based document. One of the items when you have multiple agencies working and each of them has their own customer base, and that customer base is all seen as E-ZPass, there needs to be a way for agencies to exchange funds when a home customer, and this is the concept of home and away memberships. The agency that owns the customer, that basically opens the customer account and issues the transponder, is known as the home agency. The away agency is the agency that may receive that customer's account as well as its own accounts that it's opened traveling on its facilities. So what we needed to do is to have also a guarantee that tolls were going to be paid. And this agreement basically speaks to that there is a recognition that if you're a signatory to the agreement, that under the conditions outlined, you will guarantee toll payments. The owner of the account basically guarantees that as the customer travels on an away facility, where that agency, the home agency owning that account, is going to tell the away agencies which customers are valid for payment that day, and if they're indicated as valid, that particular home agency guarantees that on that day that they're going to pay the toll of that customer that's incurred at the away facility. Another important factor is when this program came into being, that there was a great concern over the fact that there's customer information and the aspect of privacy. From an individual point of view, is always that big brother attitude that comes up. So the individual, we wanted to protect the individual information. And then we have commercial customers, and commercial customers are a different breed. Recognizing the fact that we have information on commercial carriers and how they travel, we certainly wanted to make sure that we, in our policies, had a confidentiality statement that basically said we will treat our customer data as confidential information if and when it gets exchanged between customers, I should say between the member agencies. And the member agencies included have their own policies in terms of protecting information that they have on customers. But this document speaks to information that's exchanged between the members in terms of transacting business with each other. We also, in this document, end up defining the timing for exchanging files at a high level. We talk about what files need to be exchanged, what the minimum frequency is for those exchanges, and some information on what the contents are of some of the key files. For instance, the tag status file or tag validation file, that is a file that's generated by each home agency for its tag base. So for each tag that agency has issued, they generate a record that indicates the status of that particular tag on that day. The statuses that are recognized within the IAG are a valid status, meaning that the customer's account balance is positive, a low balance, indicating that there's a threshold that the customer has reached in terms of account needing to do an account replenishment. The invalid basically are negative accounts, and then there are lost and stolen accounts. When this system was developed, recognized open road tolling was not there. And one of the reasons we had low balance was most of the agencies had indicators or feedbacks to the customers that allowed a customer who happened to be a cash payer to know that they needed to take some action on their account as they were getting low in the funds that they had in their account. Then we have the license plate file. The license plate file is also generated on a daily basis and transmitted daily. Each home agency for its customer base has license plates that the customer has registered as belonging to them and using the E-ZPass system. So what we do is basically we generate a file for each license plate that's on file, along with a tag that's to be associated as a payment if a customer's tagged for, whether it be he's forgotten to put the tag in the windshield, he waived it, mechanical problem within the lane, or some technical difficulty where the tag was not capable of being read. We have the license plate file to fall back on when violation images are taken. There's a transaction file. That file is also transmitted once a day, and the transaction file represents the transactions at an away agency that need to be sent to a home agency. So files are processed at night, segregated into the agencies that need to see and make payments for their customers, and that file, again, is sent, like I said, once a day. One of the rules that we put in place is knowing that, sometimes an agency may have issues with communications, or there might be some other disaster that prevents transactions from going once a day. There is a rule that says under certain circumstances we understand that a transaction could be delayed as far as 60 days from the date of when that transaction occurred at the facility. So we allow a grace period for the agency to basically be capable of transmitting those transactions. And then there's a reconciliation file, which we talked about. And the reconciliation file is basically for every transaction that a home agency receives, they send back a disposition for that transaction, whether it's been seen as a duplicate transaction, whether the transaction was accepted. There's a host, you'll see in the file spec, there's a host of codes that come back in terms of telling the away agency whether that transaction was honored or not and why it may not have been honored. There are also correction files that get sent back. Periodically, customers will call up, make a dispute, and there's a need to make an adjustment to the charges that have been posted. So we pull that correction file over to the agency, and the agency that made the original claim makes an adjustment to its net of tolls. Then in the document we also define customer disputes. Knowing that this is a large network, there are certain disputes which are allowed to be handled locally. So a customer may say, I was not pulling a trailer, the wrong class was chosen for my vehicle, and if the home agency has the discretion to adjust that charge based on the research that they could do with the information that they see in the customer's record. So for instance, if they've seen that the customer never has pulled a trailer, they pretty much can say, okay, based on doing our own local research, we can end up crediting the customer for that particular adjustment. There is a requirement, because customers have a certain amount of time to dispute their transactions. The away agencies or the member agencies are all required to keep at least 120 days of data online. And of course, typically there's more than a year's worth of data that most agencies maintain online to allow customers to dispute transactions. There's a definition of the settlement process. And the process basically is an agreement on, as part of the process, what ends up occurring, and there's a definition there. It's the process of agreeing on the amount of revenue that's supposed to be transferred from the home agency to the away agency for the use of the home customers on the away facilities. And again, there's a definition in terms of the frequency that this needs to happen on. Typically, minimally, it has to happen monthly. There is agreements allowed for agencies to choose something that's more frequent. And typically, depending on the dollars that are involved, an agency will get an agreement to do something more frequently, again, depending on the volume of dollar exchange. Violations, we talk about violations, and what do? We talk about preventing false violations, the idea of needing to use the license plate file that's sent around to basically filter license plates that are being taken of alleged violators to make sure that we're not catching customers. There's also an agreement, a statement that requires cooperation from the agencies when we pursue violators. If there's information, for instance, at an agency where an account has gone negative, there is another file that gets exchanged that provides customer information from that account that's gone negative, so that if an away agency needs to try to track that customer down, it could do so through the process. And then we come to reciprocity 2 and 3. These don't relate to toll collection, but it is a deal where E-ZPass has use beyond toll collection. In our particular area, there is parking, private and public parking. And these were the items that you see up here, these bullet points, are the items that are covered in reciprocity 2 and 3 in terms of the considerations that needed to be made to make E-ZPass capable of doing parking. And that product in our world is called E-ZPass Plus. Under those rules and these set of guidelines, you basically, when you look at this document, you'll see how non-toll business works. And with that, we now go from business rules, taking an agreement and now converting it into technical requirements. And the only way you can make the technical piece work with the service centers, if you take a look at the process, we basically have 13 independent customer service centers that issue tags to customers. So there are 13 independent customer bases, and what we need to end up doing here is recognizing that in some cases we've tried to look at consolidating these services where it made sense for agencies that may have been running their own service centers at the time. A number of them have chosen to use an existing customer service center and phase out their individual one because it made more sense to, whether it be geographically or from a cost perspective, to do so. And we, of course, encourage the idea of members people who will join with us to try to use an existing center for the fact that it just reduces network complexity and it reduces costs. Most of our members have some form of violation processing. Our CSCs, as I said, open individual accounts, so they're independent customer bases that somehow these 13 CSCs need to see as one customer base. What do we need to make E-ZPass interoperable to data? Well, one of the things we need to do from those 13 customer databases is come up with a consolidated list of tags or transponders that are to be seen as valid and meeting the payment criteria that we've outlined in our business agreement and reciprocity. So there has to be an exchange of tag information. License plates, again, same type of thing. In order to prevent false violations, we try to encourage our customers to provide us the plates of the vehicles that they intend to operate with their tag. We have an exchange of transactions that obviously needs to be made between these 13 customer service centers so that each one of them understands what customers of theirs have traveled on away facilities that need to be paid for. So from this, we draw this little diagram. Inside the inter-CSC file specification is the technical requirements that feed various processes that we need to complete. Starting at the top, we have a customer statement process. The customer on that statement sees not only the financial transactions of replenishments, which is their credit cards being hit to bring their prepaid accounts up to minimum balances, but also all the transactions that they generate, very much like a telephone statement where you see all the calls you placed and understand why you were levied the charge that you were. So that information, when it comes from an away agency, the inter-CSC file specification provides that information. It says what data an away CSC needs to transmit to the home CSC so that it can appear properly on a customer statement. Then going clockwise, violation enforcement. We talked about the license plate file, and this is what's meant by that. We need a way to intercept good customer statements and end up filtering out records so we don't have invalid violations. The audit process, that's at the agency level, and in particular, the audit basically now is something that comes out from reconciling the away agencies and the home agency transactions, and basically having a financial picture that the agency sees of its transactions. Going on, the in-lane tag validation process. At the lane level, the agencies that have violation enforcement systems will look at the tag status file that's transmitted to all the agencies, and from there they'll determine whether an image of a plate is a violation or not, and either keep the image or discard it, depending on how their system is programmed. And then there's the settlement process. The settlement process, as we talked about, is the agreement that gets done on a whatever the frequency basis is between the agencies to end up exchanging funds that one agency owes the other for their customers using the facility. So to go through, what I've tried to do is, in the process and a file statement, is try to correspond within the inter-CSC file specification what files feed what processes. And then finally, you come to report section. All the files that we talk about are also backed up in reports that are used in helping do the settlements. And then agencies have certain other reports that they utilize to do other activities like casual usage within their own facility. But these are not the key reports. The real key ones are listed here in terms of the settlement process. Charlie, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dan. I'll now discuss my testing program. Testing for both the program we use for our procurement process as well as the testing which we have for national affiliates. Our validation testing program was used for the procurement process, and the purpose was to assure that the proposed equipment could meet or exceed the required standards which we had outlined in the RFP. Now, why do we have these standards? Why did we do the testing? Because we wanted to ensure that the equipment was able to provide good customer service. We wanted to minimize missed reads, cross-lane reads, passbacks. So the intent was to be sure that the equipment met our high standards to provide good customer service. Also, for the agencies to have confidence that they could reliably collect toll revenue. As PJ mentioned, we collect $5.6 billion annually using E-ZPass. So there's a real interest in having equipment that performs well. So what kind of testing environment did we establish? Well, we had a control test environment. We basically chose sites and told proposers that you should tune your equipment to the optimal performance. So they had the opportunity to do that. We then followed manufacturers' recommendations for the installation of tags. And what we did was, to the best of our ability, tried to mimic an actual toll collection environment. We tested at both open road tolling sites and in traditional plazas. We tested with traffic operating at various speeds, in free flow conditions, in congested traffic, in stop-and-go traffic. And we tested with various vehicle types. Now, this seems like a lot of testing. Basically, what happened was we gave each proposer a site for 3 weeks to set up their equipment and to tune it. And then the testing actually took about 1 month for each proposer. What were we looking for? We were looking to validate the performance that PJ mentioned previously and which is listed on this slide. The requirements are rather strenuous, but again, what we saw was they needed to be strenuous because given the fact that we collect $5.6 billion annually, every decrease in performance of 0.1% decrease translates into jeopardizing $5.6 million worth of tolls annually. That's a lot of money. We tested with a significant sample size. We wanted to be statistically significant in our analysis. Our testing program included field testing and laboratory testing. I'll go over field testing now. Again, we tested vehicles at various speeds and various types of vehicles, cars, trucks, motorcycles, buses. We tested all tag types that we intended to procure: interior tag, bumper-mounted tag, rooftop tags, feedback tags. We tested with vehicles traveling side by side to assess the accuracy of the system to assign the tag to the correct vehicle. So that way, E-ZPass customers would not be identified as not having a tag and as such could wind up with a violation. And again, we separately tested to measure read accuracy and then write accuracy. Our laboratory testing was extensive, but the intent was to find out if equipment could perform in varying types of temperature, varying types of humidity conditions. We even had ruggedness testing, for example, dropping tags. We also mimic life cycle testing by putting tags in chambers and going through temperature increases and decreases to assess the life of the tag. So that was the testing program for validation testing. What we have now done is come up with a modified program for the National Affiliate Testing Program, which is similar to that, but with a smaller sample size. And again, as PJ mentioned, those documents are on our website. What we're now going through is first article testing. So that way, what we are doing now is verifying that the equipment that comes off the production line performs just as well as the equipment tested in validation testing. And first article testing includes field testing as well as laboratory testing. There are a lot of documents out there. The technical committee is available and more than happy to discuss the testing program with anybody. And as PJ mentioned, please contact the E-ZPass Interagency Group office.
Thank you, Charlie. Basically, basically, those were kind of the critical documents, the most important documents, the ones that are asked for all the time. You'll find many, many more documents there. But please take a look again at www.e-ZPassiag.com. If you have any questions, please contact us directly at the phone number that you see on the screen or at the email address admin@E-ZPassiag.com. So in wrapping things up today, we just wanted to thank you for letting us share with you how we do interoperability. And again, we're looking forward to learning how you and others do interoperability around the country. We hope that you found this presentation useful, and we're looking forward to continuing the dialogue and working with all of our partners in reaching our common goal, which really is interoperability within 4 years. A pretty tough goal, but I think if we all share our practices, if we can find out where we have those commonalities, I think we have a pretty good chance of getting there. So with that, we'll conclude this part, and we can move into any questions that there might be.
Excellent. Thank you, PJ, Charlie, and Stan for an excellent presentation, and we will move to the questions. You can pose a question to our presenters using the question dialog box on the right side of your screen. We already have a number of questions. We've responded to some in writing, some of the ones that we were able to deliver a simple response. Here's our first question. Will we eventually see a mandatory requirement for an RFID tag on every car on the roads? Who wants to take that one? PJ?
Well, I'll take that, Pat. I don't know what the answer is. I think if you look at how IBTTA and the IAG and others working together have identified what interoperability means, I don't think that that's the case. I don't think we're looking to become interoperable with every car on the road, but rather an interoperability between cars who are already in an ETC system. So no, I don't think necessarily there would be a requirement for RFID tags in every vehicle.
It is possible someday devices will be equipped with communications devices where they can be interrogated by roadside equipment for the purposes of doing collision avoidance and other things. And it's possible toll collection could tag on to that type of a device.
Stan, anything to add?
No, I think Charlie covered it pretty well.
All right, our next question. Could you address inter-party payment guarantees and credit non-payment issues?
Okay, Pat, those again are in the document that Stan covered, the reciprocity toll, the reciprocity document, reciprocity 1. If you go in there, you'll clearly see what all of our policies are with regard to the exchange of tolls between agencies and what we do for non-payment.
And I think the only item that's probably not directly in the document is we do have private companies that are members of the IAG, and the only difference apart from them having to sign the reciprocity agreement there is a bond that gets posted based on the interchange of tolls that has to happen, and that's computed after the fact, and it goes through the finance committee to determine what the appropriate level of bond has to be from a private company.
All right, thank you. Our next question, this is a big one. What is the magnitude of the economic burden associated by the establishment of interoperability?
Pat, I'm not sure I can answer that or anybody can answer that today. I think, it's large, it's significant, could be significant depending on how we get to interoperability. Is it going to require every agency to install new equipment, new readers, issue new tags? That will be a phenomenally expensive burden. So I don't know. Until we figure out how we're going to get to interoperability, I don't know how we can determine what the cost would be.
Yeah, this is Pat, I would just build on that and say that the work of IBTTA's Interoperability Committee and working with E-ZPass, the Alliance for Toll Interoperability, the Omniair Group, and others, and the establishment of the new National Interoperability Coordinating Group are all aimed at trying to get to this solution, this resolution, national interoperability. in a way that benefits the consumers, the people who are using our facilities, and also in a way that does not put an excessive burden, financial burden, on the facility owners and operators. So it's a big question. Naturally, we want to see that this is not an exorbitant cost, and part of the process of getting all of these groups together is to find that that thread that will take us to the end in a reasonably cost-effective way. Let's see. Here's another question. How are initiation fees and annual fees determined for membership? I think this is talking about membership in E-ZPass. What are some examples?
Well, membership fees, initiation fees are determined by our board. We have a board where every full member agency has a seat on the Executive Management Committee with a voice and a vote in all those matters. Some examples are of full member agencies, the dues are split between whether they're large agencies or small agencies. Small agency dues pay about $17,500 a year in dues, and large agencies, meaning those that make over $125 million a year in total revenues, pay $70,000 a year in dues. And that pays obviously for the operation of the system, for the managed frame relay, and so on. The national affiliate members have no initiation fee. They have about a $30,000 annual fee that goes toward paying for the managed frame relay connection, where we move all the data, and for associated marketing and other efforts. They also have a 6-cent per transaction charge that goes both ways, from the home agency, between home agency and away agency. Again, there is no initiation fee for that. Full members and associate members do have initiation fees that change from time to time. They're currently about $250,000 for a full member agency and $125,000 for an associate member.
All right, so you've already you've answered the next question, which is what does it cost to be an affiliate member? The follow-up question to that is, if there is a charge, what is the money for? What rights does an affiliate member have in participating in the E-ZPass group?
I mean, the funds really go for the operation of the E-ZPass system. Again, it's the connection to the managed frame relay, the moving of the data. That's what that is for. And service mark protection. I mean, there's a lot that goes into managing the system. So that's their fair share of doing that. And those amounts will be readdressed from time to time as we learn more about sharing the load among all the agencies that we're anticipating will be interested in doing this. What rights do they have? I mean, obviously they are members of the E-ZPass group. They can attend meetings. They do not have a vote in the matters that the full members get to vote on. Again, that's reserved for the full member agencies only.
Okay, thank you. Next question. When the IAG addresses multi-protocol readers, what protocols does it see or desire to be read by a single multi-protocol reader now and in 5 years? Charlie, you want to take that?
Sure, thanks. Well, what we want to do is work with the other toll regions in the country, and we want to pick the protocols where we think most of our customers will overlap, because there is a definite limit to the number of protocols you can put in a multi-protocol reader. We're not going to be able to do every one. So we want to work together with the other regions where there's significant overlap so that we can mutually agree on the protocols that should be in the reader and that we should be testing.
And I think the other piece, apart from looking at what's available in the region, right now IBTTA is just completing a document that's basically generating a set of industry requirements. So apart from the fact that there may exist protocols, until we take a look at that list of industry requirements and see which ones do meet and which ones don't meet that set of requirements, it's really premature to say which ones will make the cut and which ones won't.
All right. Thank you, Charlie and Stan. PJ, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think they covered it rather well.
All right. Our next question. has to do with privacy. Discuss the confidentiality of data with respect to police crime investigations which are not related to toll violations. For example, determining if a driver or vehicle is at a certain location at a certain time.
I can let me try to address that. One of the things with the E-ZPass transponder that we have is it's a mobile device and it can be moved from vehicle to vehicle. So that's the first thing that law enforcement struggles with, because we cannot tell law enforcement which vehicle actually has the transponder in it. So the most we can say is the transponder's gone through a particular location, but there is no way for us, unless the agency is taking a picture and linking it to the transponder, there's really no way for us to testify that that transponder was in any particular vehicle and tie it together. So yes, we do give information out under a court subpoena, but we will not just because somebody asks and we may have that information give it out. We need the force of law to actually compel us to release that information.
I think it's important to add here that we operate currently in 14 states, and each state has its own laws considering the release of that kind of information to law enforcement. What do you have to give? What can stay private? We've crafted the E-ZPass agreements in such a way that we take great pains to protect the privacy of our members' data. And so each of the states has to determine when they get a request what it's going to take for the release of that data.
Yeah, but I think it's safe to say that most of us, unless the law of a particular state compels that type of release, we try not to do it just because we've been asked. We try to do it within a framework of whatever the laws of that state happen to be.
Here's a question about carpools. With the growing popularity of hot lanes across the country and with carpooling increasing, does E-ZPass Group support carpool tags?
Absolutely. We've just finished testing our what we call the E-ZPass Flex transponder. It's going to be in use, Pat, here locally later this year on the 495 express lanes around the Capitol Beltway, and we're excited about the potential that has.
All right. Another question. Who pays for the validation tests, the supplier or some combination of them in the E-ZPass Group?
Pat, I think we're still trying to work through some of those issues. We don't have, our first national affiliate member is just coming on now, or this was for validation testing, so it wasn't for national affiliate testing. But, well, Charlie, you want to take that on?
For validation testing, the proposers paid for the bulk of the testing during the procurement. But for North Carolina,
But we also, the E-ZPass Group did share in,
right.
in the cost of validation.
Right. Shared.
Right.
Okay. Another question about the National Affiliate Program. Is the first national affiliate qualified through the interoperability test procedure posted on the website? When do they plan to be in operation?
They have not yet done their equipment testing. They have applied for membership. We have been in negotiations with them over a test plan. A test plan is available. They're going to start testing in mid-October, and once they satisfy their testing and they meet the requirements, yes, that will be posted on the website, and we should have them operational. I mean, the goal is to have them operational by the end of the year.
All right, very good. Thank you. Next question. Is tag-to-lane communication with E-ZPass encrypted? Is that an IAG requirement?
No, it is not. It is not a requirement that we don't specify, nor do we require specific communications protocol between tag and reader.
Okay. Anything else to add on that? All right. Regarding the business model, how are E-ZPass services offered and priced for transaction clearing and tag deployment?
Want to say that again, Pat?
Yeah, regarding the business model, how are E-ZPass services offered and priced for transaction clearing and tag deployment?
That's really not how our system works. So we are a membership-based organization, Everybody pays, each of the agencies pay dues that go to operating the commonality, I guess, of the system. Things like tag deployment are agency specific, and they're going to have costs associated with whatever back office that they're doing, with account management, with anything to do with tags and the transfer of tags.
Credit card equity is the only thing we really share amongst the agencies. And that's basically on a quarterly basis what we end up doing with the only real cost that gets shared is the credit card equity. And what we do on a quarterly basis, we end up settling the amount of funds transfer percentage of credit card reimbursement that needs to be done to the agency who basically owns the account, and that's done on a formula basis.
All right, next question. Is the vision of the E-ZPass group that for national interoperability, that individual tolling authorities become members of E-ZPass rather than, let's say, the Texas hub that already has members, integrate with the E-ZPass hub as a whole?
I don't know that we've quite figured out how national interoperability is going to work. I know we need to get there quickly. But no, we're not suggesting that every toll authority become members of the E-ZPass group. That's not at all what we're suggesting. We think that the E-ZPass group will continue to expand and increase our interoperable footprint, but we don't expect that it's going to be perfect for everybody or fit for everybody. But we do believe that region by region is probably how we will start to connect. And so we're looking to work with the Texases of the world and with California and with the Washington people to find ways to connect those regions.
And I think PJ's right. On an initial basis, it's hard to conceive of a system where all of a sudden the local people abandon their back office operations and adopt something overnight that connects directly into the E-ZPass network. So I think just by its nature, as we start out, we may be looking at regional systems, and there might be a concept where regionally you consolidate into one hub that processes transactions for that region. But I think it's really too early to tell what ultimate form of back office operation will serve a nationally interoperable system.
We have about 20 more minutes for this webinar, and we're still receiving questions. Please keep the questions coming in. You can pose a question using the question dialog box on the right side of your screen. Here's the next question. The value of license plate information is a secondary consideration for E-ZPass. Do the panel members see a future for the use of license plate data as the primary identifier in light of great leaps in improvement to the technology and the barcode on plate trials recently done in North Carolina?
I can't, again, this is PJ, I can't look into the crystal ball and tell you how widespread that's going to be and when that's going to happen. Obviously, there are great advances in the technology that are making it happen, but there are other issues associated with it that we're still having great difficulty with. For instance, the correctness, the accuracy of data that is resident on the DMV website, on the DMV databases, the stuff that we get back from DMV that tries to identify the registered owner of the vehicle. That's a problem. Another problem is that, we're a very highly mobile society, and so these people are traveling, from state to state, and without some kind of major advances in interstate violation reciprocity, it's going to continue to be a problem.
I'd just like to add from a technical perspective that we have to be able to read license plates in all types of weather conditions. And if there's snow on the plates, if you have a tag, we read it. If there's snow on the plate and it's covering the numbers, that doesn't happen. Also, people don't always, people, especially commercial vehicles, don't always put their plates in the same locations. So there are many challenges from a technical perspective in reading license plates.
And that's just one aspect of it. Then you think about the operational difficulties that poses to some members. There are agencies where they're closed systems, so you have to read on and read off. That currently is a challenge. Are there ways to get around that? Absolutely. But there's a cost and timing associated with doing that. We have agencies who operate gates. You know, again, very difficult to do. What about hot lanes? How is that going to work with hot lanes? Lots and lots of questions and no easy answers right now for those operational environments.
All right, very good. Next question. What challenges do you see in national interoperability with existing legacy systems, including millions of tags that may need replacement? Are low-cost tags such as 6C being considered?
My view is yes, they're being considered. All technologies, I think, are currently being considered. The work that's going on by the IOP technical subcommittee is identifying the requirements that the operators have, and then my understanding is they're going to determine which technologies meet those requirements. Is it 6C? Will it be 6Z by then? And, you know, I don't know what it'll be, but yeah, there obviously with millions and millions and millions of tags deployed, doing a massive swap out to something new would be very costly. And if that was something that's going to be considered, which, you know, I'm not sure that that's the route we're going, yeah, I would imagine the cost is going to be a pretty big part of that equation.
And if I can add, for that reason, our test plans don't talk about what type of protocol you use. They talk about performance. So all our standards are based on the ability to read, write, and to accurately assign vehicles to the correct vehicle, not what protocol you're using.
All right, thank you. Next question. Would any of the vendors' products that have been validated as meeting the E-ZPass group's requirements during the IAG procurement require any additional validation testing under the National Affiliate Program?
What the executive committee of the EMC decided was if equipment was tested in validation testing or previously for a national affiliate to join, if it was the same equipment, same model number, same software version, no additional testing would be required. So we're not looking to retest something that has already been qualified either through validation testing or the National Affiliate Testing Program.
All right, thank you, Charlie. Here's a comment and a question. Interoperability should not be confused with requiring electronic tolling. In the mind of the industry, is interoperability the equivalent of requiring all facilities to have or provide electronic tolling? Some facilities do not see the value in electronic tolling.
Let me try to take that on, Pat. I think the way that we have identified interoperability, it's for electronic toll collection systems. It doesn't mean that every toll facility has to have electronic toll collection systems, but those that do have electronic toll collection systems will need to become interoperable.
All right. Anything else to add? Okay, let's see. It was mentioned that for every 0.1% of inaccuracy, there is an annual revenue impact of $5.7 million. Is this estimate based on a varied mix of vehicle classes, or is the estimate assuming that all missed tag reads are cars?
No, it's based on actual experience, so it reflects consideration of all the vehicle types and the percentage of those types of vehicles that use our facilities. So it was not an estimate based on cars only.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Next question. What is the current estimate of potential toll revenue available to be reclaimed through full interoperability? Seems like there's a lot of assumptions in that question.
I think so, and I don't know that we really have an answer to that.
Okay. Let's see here. Next question. In terms of the multi-protocol reader approach, if you choose to focus only on those other protocols that exist in your immediately adjacent areas, how does this bode for national interoperability when there are other popular protocols prevalent outside the adjacent area?
I don't think that's a true statement that we're doing that currently. I mean, we're looking at a variety of protocols. The IAG protocol, obviously, there are 23 million tags. We're looking at 6B. We're looking at 6C. We know that Allegro is in use. We know ATA is in use. We were looking at all these things.
Right, and not the ones that are adjacent to our region. So we're looking to work with toll agencies in other regions of the country to select what should be in a multi-protocol reader and test it.
All right, thank you. Next question. With the industry seemingly headed towards photo tolling as an intermediate step toward national interoperability, will this force agencies currently operating under all lanes gated toll collection to accept and implement open road tolling?
Well, you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. Look, I think PJ alluded to that before when he said that if we do interoperability based solely on license plates, it would require closed road systems, ticketed systems, to have cameras, video equipment at both the entrances and exits. So the answer to that would be yes. If that is the sole source of interoperability, any place someone enters or exits, you'd have to get a picture of the license plate.
And gates would have to go away. Because there's, unless they're registered somewhere as a customer, there's no way to make the gate go up. So if they're post-paid, good luck. You have a gated facility.
All right, let's move on to the next question. What about the advent of account types that use license plates as an account type to implement all electronic tolling on facilities? Sort of related.
Pre-registered, I assume they mean pre-registered plates. It doesn't say. That presumes that someone has established that that license plate has an account associated with it.
And again, it has some of the same inherent difficulties that we've been talking about all along. We're working in the types of facilities that we have.
All right, next question. Somebody asks a research question. Is data available for research purposes? If so, what is the procedure to get it? For example, the share of out-of-state transactions on a specific facility.
We have a lot of information available at the E-ZPass group, and you could start there. Contact us. If it's information that we can share, we will, and if it's not information that we can share, we'll either farm you out to the agency who owns and has that data, or try to get it for you.
All right. Here's a very broad question, open question. What is the next wave of new technology in toll equipment and transponders? 5.9 gigahertz, for example.
You know, I think that we've been working for years at looking at 5.9 gigahertz, right, with the connected vehicle program. That program has obviously gone through a lot of changes. I know Tim McGuckin very involved in what's going on there with that process. I remember us talking 5 or 6 years ago about how many years is it going to take before 5.9's here. And we were saying 10 years, 12 years. Well, here we are, and I don't know that we're much closer. 5.9, I think, has a good shot. The vehicles are getting the devices. They're using them for safety. Is it ready for a tolling application? Not today. Will it be someday? Very possibly.
I would just add that I agree with you, PJ, but I think that in order for a widespread application of 5.9, there would need to be some federal involvement, and I don't think that's going to happen very soon.
All right, thank you. Next question. If something is not in the E-ZPass agreements, policies, and specifications, what is the process you follow if you agree that an improvement is needed?
It can come from several different ways. Typically, it happens at our policy committee. We are obviously run by a number of committees, managed by a number of committees. And typically, issues get raised there, and then they go to the executive management committee or our board for determination of what those policies will eventually be.
Yeah, I think the only other thing to amplify is that's if an agreement needs to be modified, but there are, for instance, things in the inter-CSC file specification that can be changed for operational reasons without having to go through a complex change. There are committees that can look at those things, and if those committees find that, you know, we have a gap that needs to be addressed, it can be addressed without necessarily going back and amending an agreement.
All right. Thank you, Stan. Next question. Were 6C passive RFID tags tested by E-ZPass or its vendors? If yes, what were the results? Does the E-ZPass consider 6C as a pathway to interoperability?
No, we have yet to test 6C. But again, if working with other toll agencies outside our region in other parts of the country, if we mutually agree that 6C is one of the protocols we should be putting in a multi-protocol reader, then of course we would test it, and we would test it looking to see that whether or not it achieved the standards that we've laid out.
All right, thank you. Question about DMVs. Does the E-ZPass IAG group work with the Associated Departments of Motor Vehicles to see where they are heading? Do you see the need to partner with them on a local level or national level?
We obviously do work with the DMVs. We have a very good relationship with both AMBA and the AMBA Board of Directors. We've been working with them on a number of critical issues, such as plate types, such as getting data for non-violation transaction events, a whole slew of issues that are critical to us as we move ever closer toward AET, things that we've got to grapple with. And trying to understand also the issues that the DMVs have and how we can work together maybe a little more smartly to reach a common objective.
All right, thank you. The next question, how much of an issue, let's see, how much of an issue do you anticipate plate type recognition to be? Would you term this particular issue to be daunting?
I would consider it to be at least daunting. It is a huge issue. It appears to be getting worse all the time. It's one that we internally within the E-ZPass group discuss a lot. We study it a lot. We try to find ways to overcome it. It's doubly hard when the plate types when it's difficult enough to identify plate types, but then when those plates have the same series of numbers used over again, very, very difficult for us to deal with, and results, frankly, if not done right, can result in toll violations of being assigned to the wrong people.
Part of the issue is that plate type is not something that necessarily is on a customer's registration form, for their vehicle. So when you get a plate type, which is animal friendly or one of those, and you say a customer, I'd like your plate type, where's the customer go to get that information? It's difficult. And then you look at the range. PJ showed the map of where E-ZPass customers come from. Now think about trying to deal with 50 states who all have their own plate types. And it's difficult. There are portion plates. There are a whole slew of things that are at issue. And part of it is a customer license plate is registered by a customer. So where does the customer go to get this data for himself? It really is a problem. One of the things that we have a group doing is compiling from each of the states a set of plate types, just what the plate types are and what the plates look like. So we're trying to get our arms around it, and we've gone through a pretty good set of the U.S. states at this point, and we're continuing that process. But that is an issue that we need to address, not only from getting the right violator, but also identifying the right customer to bill.
Here's another license plate related question. What share of E-ZPass accounts do not have any license plate attached to the account? How are such account holders treated by away agencies when the tag is not read for whatever reason?
I think all agencies, when a person registers and opens up an E-ZPass account, every agency looks for license plate information. I think the real question here is, how up to date is the license plate information? Because if a person buys a new car, they'll just take their E-ZPass tag and put it on the new car. But if they get a new license plate, many just don't remember to call the customer service center and to give the new license plate. So the issue is keeping the file up to date, and admittedly, it's a challenge.
And I think, although Charlie said that we do look for plate information, but we also recognize that there's the occasional traveler who wants to, doesn't own a car, but, wants to have a tag, and will go in a livery cab or one of the services, and they want to pay using a tag.
Right.
So yes, there are accounts where you won't have a plate. You'll just have a tag.
But I don't know that we quantified those. It's something we can look into, certainly.
But I think and the reason I'm correcting Charlie in terms of some of the agencies is that when a customer's tag of that mode doesn't read, there's no recourse except to end up initially issuing a violation notice. And then what happens is we resolve it at the back office level. Customer will call in, give us their tag number, and then it gets posted to the customer's account.
All right, thank you. Next question. Does E-ZPass require common customer account management policies like minimum balance, prepaid balance, per account transponder, etc.? Do they also share a common tag recall program?
The answer to most of that question is no. We do have some common policies that we follow, but we give a great deal of leeway to the individual agencies and states to set their own account management policies. How much of a balance there has to be in, how much the replenishment rates are, whether a tag is given away or a deposit is kept, whether it is paid for. These are all things that the agencies themselves control.
All right. Next question. What are the protocols currently being considered to be tested for purposes of the multi-protocol readers by IAG? I think you guys might have addressed that already.
Yeah, we kind of have. I think we don't know yet what they are. I mean, we're still investigating which ones that make sense to do. And as we determine that, we will test them, and we'll find out what works and what doesn't work, and we'll just make the best choices we can moving forward there.
Question, will read-write continue to be a requirement? If so, how do you write to a license plate?
I think what you've got to take a look at is, again, there's a requirements document that's being assembled that kind of defines what the toll industry needs to satisfy its operational requirements. And that's the correct place to debate the issue of whether there's a need to write to anything.
All right, very good. Anything to add, Charlie or PJ?
Nope.
All right. Next question, does the group share plate type in its license plate files today?
We have a place for it, but the reality is we do have a placeholder for plate type. And what we're trying to do is, at this point, just trying to get our arms around how to implement plate type based on, each state having its own set of codes for plate type.
All right. And this is going to be the final question. And if we have not answered your question during this call, we will get the panel to respond after the session. What does, or who does, if anyone, update the list of vehicles with windshields that block interior-mounted tag transactions?
Charlie?
Working with our manufacturer, we do. We update it periodically because it needs to be.
All right. Well, again, I would like to thank PJ Wilkins, Charlie Fausti, Stan Ciszewski for being on this call, for leading this excellent webinar. I want to thank everybody who joined the call. Please stay tuned for an email asking you to complete a post-webinar survey. We're very interested in your feedback. And let us know if you have other topics that you'd like us to consider as webinars in the future. In closing, I would remind you that we have our final workshop of the year, the Maintenance and Roadway Operations Workshop in Kansas City, October 14 and 16. And we have our next webinar, October 30th. Communication is the first step in meeting customer expectations. And you can find information on all of those on the IBTTA website. Again, we'll post the slides and the audio from this webinar to the website before the end of the day. We want to say thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you sometime very soon. Thanks again.